Welcome back to ChilliChump's guide to growing peppers from seed to source. Today's episode is going to be about watering. Now I know you may be thinking that that's something that's very easy to do and pretty straightforward, and for the most part you are right. But some people make some common mistakes, especially when they're starting out, and I'm going to help you to try and avoid those. Here's one of my chili plants that needs a good watering, and it might not look like it because the top actually looks a little bit damp, but I can feel by the weight of it that it doesn't have a lot of water. So that's generally how I check how much water is inside the pot. But there are some cheap devices you can get like this. And this here is a soil moisture meter and a pH meter. If we switch the switch over to moisture, so you can see there it says whether it's moist, wet, or dry. And basically you want your plants to go through a bit of a cycle. You don't want them to be moist all the time, you don't want them to be wet all the time, and you don't want them to be dry all the time. The typical mistake that people make when they start out growing chili peppers is they water too frequently, and that's not good. The plants do not like that. What you need to remember is the roots have a few different jobs. One of them is to gather the nutrients from the soil. Another one is to draw moisture from the soil. Something that people don't realize though is that roots need to breathe. So if this is wet all the time, then the roots never get a chance to breathe and you will not have a very healthy plant. What is the best way to water? Firstly, let's talk about the method in which you water. You can water directly from the top, and if you have your plants in the ground, then that's your only real choice. If you're using pots, then you have a couple options. The best way, in my experience, is to bottom water. Now, in my greenhouse, I use drip feeders because that's a lot easier for me to automate that process. If you are able to, then water into the bottom, let it soak it all up within about 10 minutes or so. Let this soak up as much water as it needs, and then empty out the container. It's not very practical when you're doing that with a lot of plants. So what I do is I top water. So if you aren't going to water from the bottom, then obviously the other way is to water from the top. The way you want to water is just pour in. Give it a good soaking, and you'll see the water starts coming out the bottom. So when the water starts coming out the bottom like that, then you know that the water is pretty much saturated this entire plant. Once you've watered this and you've saturated the soil, then leave it for at least the next 2 days. What you want to happen is you want this to dry out a little bit. You want the roots to stretch out to get the moisture. It'll help the root system to expand because the roots will have to look for water. If you're watering constantly, giving it some water in the morning, giving it some water in the evening, then the roots don't need to stretch out. They don't need to go and look for water because they'll all be right there. Also, the roots aren't going to be very healthy. They're going to be wet all the time. It's better to underwater than it is to overwater. And remember, your plants will talk to you. If they need some more water, the leaves will droop. Give them some water, give them a good saturation like I've done today, and leave them again for another couple of days. When your plants are a bit bigger and when they're in a bigger pot, then the environment will be a little bit more stable. When they're in smaller pots like this, you need to pay a little bit more closer attention. When they're in bigger pots, you can have more of a schedule to your watering. So typically in summertime, I have the bigger pots and I water them once every 2 days. I completely saturate the pots, and then 2 days later, I'll do it again. I hope you're having lots of success with growing your chili peppers. And if you have any questions, please let me know in the comments below. And I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Thanks for watching.